welcome to another edition of Suburban Bourbon, and we are very excited, Joe and I. This is season 3, because we called it season 3.
That's right. Episode 1.
Episode 1, season 3. And Joe, tell us where we are today.
That's right. We're at West Branch Malts, and we're here with owner Randy Thatcher and Maltster.
Yeah, we're at 2866 Nationwide Parkway in Brunswick. We're kind of tucked back in a little industrial parkway. Yes, you are in the right place, I assure you.
Sounds good. And, one of the things that we want to first talk about is, how did this come about, West Branch Malts?
We had a successful family software business that my father had started back in the 80s, focusing on barcoding and labeling, and it had been really good to our family and the people that have worked here, some of which have been here well over 20 years. And as things started to slow down, we were kind of looking for another opportunity, another business, a way to keep our employees, employed and working. And so my sister and my brother-in-law down in Asheville, North Carolina, were involved in a business that was a malting craft malt company, and just started talking, and the idea sounded pretty good. And so, we got into it, and as a way to really kind of showcase our grain, we felt the distillery would be a good way to go, because our business was really trying to sell the malted barley to the breweries in the area, all 100% Ohio grown, malted here by us.
So Randy, one of the exciting things that we found out about, we were kind of going through your website with West Branch, was sort of how you really try to serve the community. You look for local sourcing, and we commented on Did You Know with Joe and Joe that, you see that common with restaurants or local greens and whatnot, and you don't think about a distillery, that you're using those ingredients. So tell us, one, why that's important to you, and two, how do you do that?
Well, I think for a lot of people, they're starting to ask a little bit more, about where their food comes from. The farm to table movement is pretty important. A lot of restaurants have placed focus on this, and so, for the beverage industry, it's kind of, it's going to take a little bit more time to get there. But I think that as you see places popping up, and the number of people that have said, "I had no idea you were here," and things like that, that does at least show that people are reaching out a little bit. They're going outside the norm, or maybe the 1 or 2 big stores that they're used to buying everything at, and seeking out alternatives. So it's important for us, and we're trying to be that part of the community. So.
Sure. And it definitely helps promote the other businesses, like you were saying, like farmers, local farmers, and really promoting, it's like we were saying before, having a product and selling it is one thing, but being a part of the community and really giving back in a large way, by the way that you go about it, is reputable for sure. And
building off that, Randy, maybe you could walk us through, I noticed that you were very charity conscious too with some of the vendors. I think if we interpret your website right, can you tell us about why that's important to you, and then maybe what that means for people who buy your product to know that they're making an impact, maybe in a small way.
And obviously we all have our own problems, and our problems are our biggest problems, but there's a lot of things I think that the community faces where people really don't have food, they don't have a place to lay their head, they don't have clothing, medical needs met. And so there were just a lot of things that, as a family, and like I said, with this, the software company being good to our family, it was important that we gave back to our community. Even if our product was sold more worldwide, it wasn't such a local product on the software side of things, it didn't mean that our community couldn't use a little bit of strength and support. And so that was kind of where a lot of the charitable efforts came from, was just the focus on food, clothing, shelter, and medical needs for Northeast Ohioans.
That's outstanding.
That is. Now, when we look back at the variety of bottles that you have, how did you come about, the products that you came up with, as well as the different flavors? Because that's what stood out to me.
And we love the names.
Yeah.
By the way, White Lightning, awesome.
White
Lightning, I love that. I love that. it's moonshine and it's pure.
What I like is it's strawberry Maltshine without the strawberry.
Exactly.
Right. That's allergic to strawberries. I appreciate White Lightning, but we do love the names, and we were intrigued by the variety of flavors that you came up with. So, any thoughts on the evolution of your your product base?
You know, I mean, you're not trying to be everything to everybody, and we may be a little bit high even on the number of choices that we have, but it was just kind of a progression where, you know, we had come out with our vodka and we figured we would do a vanilla flavor of that, and, you know, the whiskey obviously wasn't ready right on day one, but we felt, you know, having some sort of flavored version of that, and that was where the spiced apple kind of came into play. We used to do a hot cinnamon that was a real spicy cinnamon, and the people that liked it loved it, and then everybody else said it doesn't taste like the major brand that we're used to, and so, you know, it was more whiskey forward. So that one didn't quite make the cut for, you know, the longevity of the distillery, but it's a little bit of trial and error, and honestly, we just, you know, tasting days are fun when we get some new flavors and we get to play around. Some of which, you know, sounds great on paper, doesn't necessarily work out, and then you have your, you know, your dosings to figure out how much of that flavor you want in there, and so it's just, we kind of go through the process. But honestly, when it came down to our top sellers, which are our coffee vodka and our chocolate vodka, it was really listening to our customers. You know, our vanilla was still very much a vodka with just a hint of vanilla to it. And we had a lot of people that were like, well, you know, we wish she had something a little bit sweeter. And so that was kind of where chocolate and coffee came out of it, and just really paying attention to what your customers say and what they ask for repeatedly, and, you know, at a higher number. So
how, you know, I know that from our experiences and kind of getting to know bourbon and whiskey, there's, you know, there's two ways to distill. You know, there's the, maybe even, if you want to call it traditional way, where you know, you'll sit it in a barrel for, if it's whiskey, for 8, 10, 12 years, whatever. And then there are a lot of distillers now across the country that have that sort of that hyper distilling process.
Right. You know, the distillation process is pretty much so the same across the board. It just depends on how you start out. For us, we actually start out by making a beer. So obviously we're not going to put hops in that, we're not going to carbonate it, but we mash in just like a brewer would. We're using all grain here. You know, so there's no trickery. There's nothing that's going on here that's not a traditional, you know, way of doing things. And we take that beer, we put it in a fermenter, we put our yeast in there. What we hope to get out is about an 8% beer out of there, you know, what we would call our wash. And then the distillation process, like I said, is very similar, just different equipment pretty much, so different methods of doing it. But, you know, we take that beer and we strip off all the alcohol, the good and the bad alcohol, ethanol being the good and methanol being the bad. And then we have another still that allows us to do our cuts, or to separate those alcohols. And so we do two different runs here. We do a whiskey run and we do a vodka run. And in a vodka run, you're going to come off that still at about 95% pure ethanol, so 190 proof. And then we set that aside for a little bit, let everything kind of chill out before we proof it down with reverse osmosis water, and then we can flavor that and bottle it after. 70%,
right, I think is what I saw on the website for vodka?
For the vodka, 80 proof for, 80 proof for a vodka.
And 90, right?
And then the whiskey, the single malt whiskey is 90.
Yep.
But basically, when the whiskey comes off the still, you know, it's at a lower proof. It's somewhere between maybe 110 and 130 in that range. And then the proof that we actually put it in the barrel at gives us different flavor profiles. So, you know, we'll age for, I think our oldest barrel back there is about a year and a few months old now. And that seems to be a really nice sweet spot where you're kind of getting everything that you want out of that barrel into that whiskey. And so that's all really just the White Lightning is just the unaged whiskey.
That's at one. Is that one?
That's at 120.
That's what I thought.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I was surprised when we first started getting into this, and we, you know, made our trips to various distillers, and you walk in and it would smell like a brewery.
Yeah.
And then it starts occurring to you, like, yeah, I guess it is the same, you know, initially.
And it depends, you know, I mean, the expression that you can make vodka out of anything is true. Anything that, you know, has a sugar to it, it's just that when you take grain and you make a vodka, you're getting more character in there that you would expect out of more of a premium vodka. So it is true, you can make vodka out of pretty much so anything, but there is a certain degree of character that comes through in our vodka and higher end vodkas that, you know, you can't necessarily get from some of the other ingredients.
So with the variety of vodkas and whiskeys, are there certain drinks that you're like, this would be great with this type of, like if you mix it with this?
We were commenting on coffee.
Yeah.
Only about 5,000 of them. I mean,
I sit there and look at spiced apple and I think about, fall time,
Yeah.
cider.
and that's when we sell a lot of it. As the weather starts to turn cool, you can just count on the spiced apple whiskey sales going up, And it mixes well with things like mulled hot cider, but it also mixes really well with some rocks and ginger ale, and on a summer day. It's just that most people kind of think of it more as a cool weather, just like, the coffee vodka, the chocolate vodka, they get thought as more of dessert drinks, but they don't necessarily have to be, and so that was kind of why we started to widen the portfolio. We were looking for something a little bit more tropical, and that was where our guava vodka came from. And then we're set to release our lemonade vodka on April 1st next week. So, a couple just in time for summer.
Callie and Katie will be here.
Exactly.
Our two wines.
I'm guaranteeing that. That is awesome.
So with the whiskey, is it with obviously, as you know, with bourbon, you can have corn or wheat.
Right.
I'm sorry, wheat or rye or whatever the case may be. What's the consistency of your whiskey?
It's 100% Ohio barley malt.
Yeah, barley malt.
Yeah. So I mean, you can have wheat in there, things like that. But as of right now, we just kind of felt like the barley provides a very smooth spirit, and again, it was what we started out with, being a malt house. And so it was just a great way to showcase like a single grain, single origin. In the case of the last couple of years, we only worked with one farmer, and you get to know these people, and it's kind of part of that story that's in that bottle. That as long as people know a little bit about it, it makes it taste better. The effect that our perception has on even things like taste is it's very interesting. So.
I think the adventure is just finding different bourbons. I mean, that's our mantra, I think. I mean, it could be we'll go to Indiana or we'll go to Arizona. Just buy something local.
Right.
Exactly.
Because they just want to taste, and it could be very good. You could
Right.
really fall in love with it. Yes, they're expensive bourbons, and they have their place. But I like just to, and I think you do too, try different things.
Yeah, and we've proven over time, it's not about cost. I mean, there's
Right.
the price of a bourbon is a lot. There's a lot that goes into that. So, a bourbon or a whiskey. So, I mean, you can find gems anywhere, and
That's right.
We're excited to try
Right.
what you have here. I was curious. You brought up the lemon vodka. Are there any other product offerings that are going to be forthcoming, or any other flavors that you?
As of right now, that's pretty much so it. Again, we have a pretty wide bottle selection. But getting back to some of the taste and the uniqueness of different things that you find in different parts of the country, that's kind of why we're excited about this American single malt whiskey categorization. The TTB's been working on it for a while, because just like there are different flavors of grapes, depending on where they're grown. I mean, the barley that we use in our whiskey and that we've been selling to the breweries is a seed that's pretty specific to this area. It's a winter crop, so it's grown in the winter. Gives the farmer something to use as a cover crop and double crop their land, utilize their land year round. But you get a certain terroir out of it, that flavor of the region, and our grain has a very unique flavor. So even these single malt whiskeys, you could bring the grain into our distillery. We could do everything same, but that grain ultimately will have a little bit of an influence on the end result and what you're tasting.
That's cool.
And what about, we talked about the vodka's 80 proof,
Yeah.
the whiskey's 90 proof.
Right.
How did you land on those? Was that pure, like, working through a trial and error? Did you have
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's still ongoing. It's like there are people that they like that ice cube in there because it really kind of, or the couple of drops of water, and that's just bringing that proof down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And other people like, things that are a little bit hotter, a little bit stronger. And so, you kind of just, we don't necessarily know everything here. And again, customer feedback tells us a lot. And so we just try to go on a little bit of what we think, but also what our customers are telling us. And so it is, you're kind of just, you're choosing a number, and you're not necessarily sure that that's going to please everybody, but you just got to try to do what you can to get a majority thumbs up and go with it.
Yeah, because in our, you know, our experiences, that 90 proof, whether it's bourbon, whiskey, is a really good. It's a really
sweet
good,
spot.
I was gonna say
Right.
it's a sweet spot for a lot of whiskeys, and this, you know, I like that. It, you know, the vodka's one, the whiskey's one, and then of course White Lightning is another. So it kind of accommodates what you're looking for as a, you know, as a spirits drink.
It's a more inclusive.
Yeah.
Like
it's a good
Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
If you're not a big whiskey or person, I mean, you can still enjoy that.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? You get some of the hotter stuff, and you really have to, you know, you kind of have to know what you're tasting.
Well, and
to get past that.
that's kind of the fun part. Even with the White Lightning, I mean, that allows you, if you want to take a bottle of that home and throw your own charred chunks of wood in there and make your own whiskey. I mean, do it yourself, you know, and that way it's like you can kind of figure out, well, what do I like? And there's all sorts of calculators out there where you can, you know, proof down your own stuff. And so it's a lot of fun to play around with, whether you're throwing wood in there, you're throwing some fruit in there and doing your favorite, you know, and then a little bit of simple syrup, and you have your own spirit that you've created then.
So I see on the menu back there, White Lightning. We have all the vodka and whiskey.
Yeah.
You see White Lightning strawberry, and then create your own. What's create your own?
And that's pretty much so what I was just talking about.
Okay.
It's, you know, do your own thing, take it home. You have that fruit you got from the grocery store that you're like, you know, these are the best raspberries I've had. I take a little jelly jar and throw a handful of them in there, top it off with that White Lightning, come back a month or two later, and now you have your own flavored spirit. And then if you want to, you know, kind of bring it down a little bit with some simple syrup or mix it into a drink, all of a sudden now you have something unique. It's still based on this idea that it's a local product. It was created locally. I have some folks that have, you know, tart cherry trees, and they're like, I don't know what to do with these things. And, you know, they put them in a jar of White Lightning, and all of a sudden it's a great garnish, and now you have this great spirit. And so there's a lot of different things that we have that just grow around us, you know, that you can, if you're a gardener or if you're a forager, all sorts of things you can do to have a lot of fun with that and create your own.
We're not gardeners or foragers, but we do like alcohol.
And you shop at the grocery store, right?
You might have pushed us towards that. Yeah.
You know, those little blackberries that pop up all around the yard.
Exactly.
That's a lot of fun. So there's a lot of options. Create your own.
Way more fun than
That's
I
right.
know.
That's right. So should we try some of
I think
maybe do a tasting?
I think we're at that point, so let's do it.
So now we get into the fun stuff, Joe. We get to actually do a tasting here at West Branch Malts in Brunswick, Ohio. Here with Randy Thatcher, and we're going to go through 3 whiskeys. Joe, do you want to kick it off with what we're going to be drinking today?
So the first one, we're going with your single malt whiskey. So this is no flavors. This is just as it is, and we're talking 90 proof. So excited to give it a shot. So
we have the guest taster, if you can see him on camera, Jeff Sobieski. He's celebrating his 21st birthday.
That's right. This is the first time he's ever drank.
I carded him and everything.
But oddly, he has 2 kids in college. I don't know how that works out being 21. But,
amazingly.
All right, let's give this a try.
Yeah.
I will say this, it goes down easy.
It does. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me when you start getting into some of the Japanese whiskeys that we've tried, and you start getting into even like a Scotch. It has that earthy taste to it in a good way, not peaty like a Scotch,
right?
But there's an earthy taste to it in a good way. Am I reading?
And I would think that's right on. I mean, that's really where when we explain to people, we kind of, you know, we are kind of making a Scotch, obviously for, you know, legal reasons. You know, it's not made in Scotland, so. But that is really the same process that I think a lot of the, you know, the Scottish whiskeys go through, is this mashing in all grain, you know, barley malt, and you kind of go from there. So good call.
It's a interesting taste.
It is, and what I like about it too is, I mean, Scotch has its place, but I mean, we've talked about it. I'm not a huge peaty taste to it, but this has, like you said, that earthy kind of flavor to it. It's got a little bit of heat, but man, it is so good.
That's a good sipping whiskey.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I mean, neat on the rocks, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we tend to go on the rocks, but the first time I try any, I always like to have it neat.
Yeah.
And this is really good.
Yeah, and honestly, I enjoy it on the rocks too. I think it's a great sipper. You know, and at 90 proof, there is a little room. There's a little bit of heat there, but you know, you put it on some ice and it kind of calms things down. And again, I think this batch is probably aged about 8 or 9 months. So as we're building our inventory, we're able to age a little bit longer. And, you know, we are using smaller barrels. So a lot of the big distilleries use 53-gallon barrels. We're actually using 30-gallon barrels. And so, you know, the idea is kind of less volume, more surface area. You age a little bit faster. So, you know, we're pretty happy with where we're getting to in our program, you know, as time's allowed and, you know, as we kind of keep filling barrels up.
So, and you obviously have much more of an expert eye than we would, you know, being in this industry.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's giving me a lot of credit because I mean, you know, we're new. We're still learning, you know, and that's what I tell people, and that's why feedback to us is so important because I don't have any, family lineage in this. I wasn't handed a recipe, and honestly, you know, we have people that they're working very hard to learn as they go.
What I think my question would be, how would you rate your consistency? So if somebody were to come in and buy a bottle today and buy a bottle
from batch to batch,
yeah, I mean, are you aiming for that consistency, or are you saying, hey, look, this is a different batch, come out and try it?
You know, I mean, obviously we're aiming for a consistent product, but in anything craft related, especially where, you know, you have agriculture, you have an agricultural product, again, maybe that's not the biggest thing, but the barrels themselves, you know, early on we were kind of getting a barrel here, a barrel there, and then we found out that trying to settle on more of a, you know, quantity purchase of barrels from a single distillery. So these are actually, we age in used bourbon barrels. So we found out that, you know, through that, and we had tried a couple of different barrels. We tried rye barrels and didn't really care for the outcome of aging our whiskey in a used rye barrel. So we settled on bourbon, and we actually were able to secure a better quantity of freshly dumped barrels. And, you know, so therefore it's going to help with the consistency, but absolutely, it is a craft product, it is an aged product, so you are going to have some small variances. And, you know, that's why we try to taste along the way and see where we're at, because you can have, sorry about that, you can have two barrels that are from, you know, the same distillery, same batch, and they can behave differently.
Well, the other part too is, are there other parts, like when you're buying these barrels, are there other criteria that come into play, or you're getting them from the same distillery, but there could be variances in the barrel themselves?
So far, because we are pretty small, we've only bought barrels a handful of times in our 3.5 years. But the last time, you know, we made sure and bought about 20 of them. So again, we're kind of ready to go.
You'll reuse them as you go along.
We will, you know, but I mean, obviously we haven't even filled all 20 of those yet. So we're still working on filling those and just kind of making sure that we have enough for supply. And honestly, if we run out, that's not a bad thing, because it means that things are selling, and hopefully people will be kind of understanding that, you know, this is a small business and it is an aged product. I mean, we can pump out all the vodka we want, but you know, with the whiskey, you have to wait. So.
Next, we are going to try the honey flavored whiskey, which, Joe, that was the one you really wanted.
That's right. I was excited for two reasons. One, you know, it sounded interesting. Two, it was out of stock.
Yeah.
So then it's out of stock. I want it. But this is 82-ish proof, right? Like 41%-ish.
Yeah. So you dip down a little bit in the alcohol heat, you bring up the sweetness, and so, you know, for a lot of people it provides that balance that if they don't like, you know, very strong spirits, this helps out and gives them a little taste of something.
This is awesome. Jeez, man. Oh, wow.
This is so good.
This is good stuff.
I think with all of our whiskeys, you know, we still wanted them to be whiskey forward. You know, we still wanted that element to obviously come through, but, you know, when people like their flavor and you add a little bit of... sweetness.
Yeah,
And
it's
if you know the single malt was smooth for you guys, obviously
the
this,
honey is very smooth.
yeah, the honey should just progress towards that smoothness goal.
Those are 21-year-old Jeff.
Never drank before, right?
It's very good.
Well, for 82 proof, that is smooth.
It's very smooth, and it's interesting because you said you wanted to be whiskey forward, and it definitely is. I mean, so for all of you listening, try it. It's if you can get it, but definitely worth trying because you do taste the whiskey, but that flavor is so good.
Thanks.
I mean, I love honey, but and I've never had. I'm sure I've had honey whiskey, but this is very good.
I've had honey flavored, some of the more commercial whiskey or bourbons and stuff, but you don't taste the honey.
No,
I mean,
like
it really kind of sweetens it a little bit or softens it. You taste the honey in here. It's not overwhelming. I mean, you could actually use this as an aperitif.
Yeah,
you really could.
I agree.
Okay.
So we've gone through the single malt whiskey, we've tried the honey, now onto spiced apple. And it's funny because when we looked at this, I immediately thought of the fall. And this is one too. I know that we've done in prior shows, we've talked about Crown Apple, which is extremely popular. So we're excited to give this one a shot. And this one again, what's the proof on it? You said like about
87, I think, on the.
87 proof.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You have done amazing with these flavors. I mean, this is another smooth, really tasteful drink.
I know, and putting this on the rocks alone, I think would be a great summer drink. And then you brought up some, because we talked about this before.
Right.
You can mix it in with cider.
Yeah, we get a lot of people that it is definitely a cool weather favorite. One of our best-selling whiskeys. It's got a really nice mix. Starts off with a soft cinnamon, finishes up with a green apple flavor, and so it does lend itself to a ginger whiskey sort of drink.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of people, it's just a nice sipper. Kind of gives you that nice warm feeling inside on a cool day, and so we do sell a lot of it as the weather starts to turn. You can almost look at it as.
Well, I think where people mess up with
it's like clockwork.
Some distillers mess up with that is they put too much cinnamon in. Like you have a hint of it in there.
Yeah, it just starts off a little bit of softness. There's no heat to the cinnamon, which I know some people really don't like hot cinnamon, but they can do just a little bit, and a little bit of cinnamon generally goes a long way. And we've worked with a really good flavoring company. They're all natural extract flavorings, so we're trying to really and that is where we're at least able to get the consistency in the flavoring of the whiskeys. But the base whiskey is going to change things a little bit. So again, batch to batch, you do get a little bit of a maybe possible taste difference. So
that was outstanding. I'm not sure which one is my favorite, but I can definitely say they are all worth trying. You can drink them all straight, which is obviously a testament to their quality. But then there's endless options.
So we're going to try something a little bit different now on Suburban Bourbon. Obviously, we like whiskey and bourbon. We also like spirits in general. And we're going to try some of West Malt Branch's, or West Branch Malts Distillery's line of vodkas.
That's right. We're going to try the chocolate, the two best-selling for what you were saying.
Right.
The chocolate vodka and the coffee vodka. And then, of course, we're going to finish it off with possibly our favorite name of any whiskey we've ever had. White Lightning, which is the Maltshine.
So if you already didn't like West Branch malts already, I think you're going to really love it now. Exactly. So let's get into this. Randy, tell us what we're going to have.
So our number one selling chocolate vodka, I mean, so many options from just a simple chocolate martini, to many, many, many drinks. This has been a favorite in some of the local restaurants and bars. And, so look for it on the cocktail menu. It's got a really nice milk chocolatey smooth flavor, and there's very little heat to it. It's a nice sipper just on its own.
I have no other expression, but this is awesome. Like it is, it really has such a great chocolate flavor to it. I mean, I can see where you could drink this. Like you said, a chocolate martini.
Yeah.
This is a perfect chocolate martini.
Yeah.
Jeff, you're a big vodka guy, so what do you think?
First time, this is the first time
I've
drinking
heard
vodka.
vodka was good. This is good. It's even almost like the consistency of drinking it. It's almost like drinking like a chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a good mouthfeel to it.
This is
Ooh, that's good. Again, it's much like your other flavors of whiskey, Randy, that you could drink these on the rocks and just enjoy it as a dessert drink or as just something you just.
So, are there any local establishments? We had talked earlier. There's some that have West Branch Malts vodka.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the establishments that you can go to locally to get it? Bars or restaurants?
Square 22 in Strongsville does a really nice chocolate martini. The Hangar or City Goods down in Cleveland on West 28th, they're literally a boutique bar that 75% of their alcohol offerings come within 2 hours. So you're not going to find a lot of the big brands there. Instead, what you'll find is 15 or 20 distilleries worth of Ohio products in there. And so that's a really fun place to go into. They make some amazing cocktails. The Harp down in Cleveland has been doing a really good job with our coffee vodka. They have it in a couple of drinks, and
Irish Catholic. Yeah, I think it's a requirement.
So I mean, those are just a few off the top of my head. But we've even had some of our brewery customers that have brought on our bottles to complement the beers that they sell.
Square 22 is one of our favorite places.
Yes.
I mean, and now that just, you said it, but that chocolate martini, I know that's going to be one that our wives want to go try.
I want to try this.
And me.
I want to try this coffee one. Did you smell it yet?
I've not smelled it yet.
It smells amazing.
And it's funny, we even get some people that aren't coffee drinkers that they taste it, and it's really got a nice coffee candy sort of flavor to it. There's a little bit of vanilla in there. And again, that grain kind of comes punching through with its own degree of sweetness to it. So I've had a lot of people, like I said, that aren't coffee drinkers that actually find this as, a real pleasant drink for themselves.
Jeff, our guest.
Morning's got a little more interesting.
Exactly.
That's what I said. Did you know? I mean, on the way to work. Why not? Not endorsed by West Branch, by the way.
Very good.
Suburban Bourbon does not endorse drinking this on the way to work.
Right. Or for Zoom meetings or anything like that.
I work from home.
That is good. You know what? It's also good because it's not, again, like the other, not overwhelmingly coffee.
Exactly.
But you taste the coffee.
You don't get the bitterness associated with coffee, just drinking straight black coffee.
Right.
And again, it's got more of it's not sweet enough to be a candy, but it's kind of in between somewhere where it provides that nice sweetness and, again, just a nice one to do over ice. We have a lot of people that like to do adult milkshakes, with both the chocolate and the coffee. You mix the chocolate and the coffee together, and now we're talking about a mocha style vodka.
I'm going to buy my sister-in-law, Candace Vitale, some of these because I can already see with some ice cream and a little bit of this on top. That's an endorsement for you, Candace.
And I that's the one thing that stood out is I'm black coffee. That's what I drink, and the bitterness that sometimes coffee has is totally absent here. I mean, this is a great coffee, and it's a great coffee flavor.
Yeah.
And to add vodka to it, fantastic.
So the exciting one coming up is White Lightning, and the exciting thing for us, Randy, was you might not know this, but it's Joe's nickname on the community center basketball court. White Lightning. So I thought to myself, White Lightning drinking White Lightning.
Now I understand.
I wish I was like White
Randy,
Lightning.
if we do nothing, we laugh.
I know.
Now it all becomes clear.
I I wish I was White Lightning. I will accept the name.
Randy did say off air he did hear of you. I don't want to put him on the spot.
Oh, this is White Lightning.
Yes,
Right.
yes, inspired.
Right.
It's a side, kind of a hidden story. Anyway, so the Maltshine, as you call it,
Yeah.
two flavors, the strawberry and the White Lightning, and
Right.
and I think as you said in the earlier segment, you can actually take some home and make it your own. You can add any flavor you want. You've had customers do that.
Absolutely.
And this is 120 proof.
Yeah. So talk about, I guess, which one's more popular? Is it the strawberry or create your own?
We've had a couple of places pick up the strawberry early on. Planted Flag Brewing, I mean, they literally opened the first day of the pandemic, so they were kind of forced to can everything, sell it to go. And one of the things they did was they combined our strawberry Maltshine and lemonade and, sold it in a 16-ounce can and made a lot of people real happy and introduced our spirit to a population of local people that then came to our door looking for it. And when they realized, well, I can make my own flavor with the White Lightning, that was kind of where the create your own came from. The possibilities are so endless. I mean, you can make your own whiskey out of this. I've had people that, buy the barrels, throw a bottle of wine in there for a little while, kind of let it coat the barrel, dump the wine, and then put this in there and, make their own whiskey. We have a lot of people that like to do fruit, extractions, herbal extractions, things like that. So the possibilities are there. It's strong enough to really pull all that flavor out. And then whether you want to just mix it into a drink or you want to sweeten it up with some simple syrup and bring that proof down a little bit, the options are pretty endless with it. But, kind of gives you the option to make a lot of different things on your own.
Taste the malt and the grains in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say you better.
It's that grainy. You can taste
Yeah,
it. Like just
absolutely.
It reminds me of what I would smell when I go into your distillery.
Right.
That smell, that essence of the distilling process.
But I think your idea of create your own is pretty intriguing, especially for people. That's a very popular thing to do.
Yeah, and it's so simple. I mean, you save your old olive jars or jelly jars. I mean, just anything small that's glass and, you can cap and you start doing your own. You figure out what you like and I've had a lot of people that have developed their own recipes. Like I said, people with tart cherry trees in their yard that they don't necessarily know, what they're going to do with all these, or you just have an abundance of blackberries around your yard at, July, and so it's a lot of fun to do those things. Or like I said, you find something like a really good mango at the grocery store, and that makes a really good mango shine.
All right, well, Randy, this has been fantastic being here at West Branch Malts. Obviously, we tried, a variety of whiskeys and vodkas and White Lightning, the Maltshine of all Maltshines. And we not only appreciate what you guys are doing here from a spirits perspective, but we talked about it earlier, the community involvement, sourcing locally, all the work you're doing from a charity perspective. It's fantastic to be around a company like this and what you guys are doing for the community. And we really enjoyed the time here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we've enjoyed all your products. So I think if people are looking to do something different, come down for a tour.
Yep.
You can do that online on your website. Yep. Try the varieties. They have a lot of them and still making more. I think you mentioned, is it the lemonade coming out?
Yeah, April 1st, 7 days from now.
So, who knows what'll be out in a few months. I mean,
and you can stop at any time for a tasting. You can find our products in some of the state liquor agencies. OHLQ.com will give you an idea of where we're available at. They have a map for that.
Perfect.
So that being said, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, thank you very much.
Again, at 2866 Nationwide Parkway here in Brunswick, West Branch Malts. This has been Joe and Joe. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube video and visit our website at suburbanbourbon.net.
Yeah, and stop by West Branch Malts.